Thank you for tuning in to Serendipity with Sheila, the podcast that helps you align your mission with your passion. As a universal master energy healer, Sheila can help you awaken and align with your true self so you can live the purposeful life you were made for. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Serendipity with Sheila. And I am your host, Reverend Sheila Chilik. And today we have an amazing guest today, and she's very special to me. Her name is Denise Lennox. All right. And she's going to tell us about her amazing healing journey she's been on and how an awakening she has had has led her to living a more holistic life with herself and with her higher power and everything else that she does in life. So welcome, Denise. Welcome to my show.
Hi, Sheila. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining in and listening to us today. I'm very honored to be here as a guest with Sheila. And where would you like me to start?
Well, Denise, I know you quite well, and you're very dear to my heart. And you have been with me on this journey for about 3 or 4 years now. And the serendipity of it all, of how the universe has led us to work together, has been very profound. But I'd like you to why don't you start with the background, kind of how, before we met, what you were doing and what kind of led you on this beautiful healing journey that we are on together, and how we walk as soul sisters, actually helping humanity. So how about a little bit of background? Where did it all start for you, or kind of a few years before?
Well, I think it really all started for me when I was a child. Because, some of you may have also felt this, is I've always felt different. When I was a child, I would ask myself, oh, okay, what is my purpose? Like, I feel different, but I never really understood that, never really knew what it meant.
Were you like me when we had to talk to the angels and people were saying who you're talking to, and they kind of looked at you like you were so different? You were different, but you weren't different because that's who you were, right?
Yeah, and I always gravitated to nature, so I was always playing in the woods. I was always making like tree houses. I just loved being in nature, and I would just go and just walk in nature, and I just felt so grounded, and I just felt so like I was home. So then, going through my childhood years and, graduating from high school, I had this magnificent career. I was very career driven. And probably about 4.5 years ago, my father became ill. And it was very interesting because I was supposed to be going to Disney at that time. And, my friend and I, we got to the airport, and the plane that we were supposed to get on, well, our flight was canceled and we were going on another flight, but then we had to reschedule when we were going to leave Syracuse. And so I got all that stuff straightened out. And then I got a phone call from my brother that my father was in ICU. And it was really, really looking inside and saying, okay, do I go to Disney with the possibility I might have to fly back? Or do I go to Pennsylvania to the hospital, to ICU, to be with my father? And I elected the latter. And that's when I really started listening to my intuitive and really understanding it more. So I was with my father in ICU for a week, and he went into hospice, and, he transitioned. And through the whole process, it was divine timing that I was there with my father, because it was such a gift for me to be there, because I was just there and I was present, I was on vacation from work. I didn't have to worry about that. I had a fitness studio, and, that was shut down for the week. So all I had to do was be with my father. And, he was the type of person that, he was very bitter, at the end of his life. He was just very bitter about a lot of things. So he would vocalize that with the nurses, and he would demand this and he would demand this. It was just because he was in pain, and I never really understood that. But for me, that whole experience was, I was just there with him. There was no judgment. There was nothing else. And, we really connected. He told me he loved me. He told me he was proud of me. And, it was just a very humbling experience to be there with him. And then he transitioned. I wrote the eulogy, and it was all about him. And then after that, I went to a retreat, And it was just miraculous because it was just like, I said he opened the door for me to really let myself blossom and for me to become who I was.
Awesome.
However, it was really me that opened the door.
Yeah, isn't it something how you really realize what it's really all about? You being there and
Yes.
in the whole plan, right? What the universe has up for you. So your whole purpose. So, awesome.
Right.
Keep going. Keep going. Sorry.
So that was good because the interaction is really good. So then after that retreat, then what happened was Reiki came into my life. So I became a master. And then after that, then my father-in-law transitioned and I was with him in home hospice that whole time. And I was just really channeling Reiki with him and just being there, and I remember having a conversation with my mother-in-law because she would tell me, Denise, go home. Denise, go home. You don't have to be there. You've got work to do. And I said, Anna, I said, you know what? I am here for whatever reason that I am here. I said, I don't know what it is. I said, but let's just accept it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And from that point on, she was very open and receptive to that. And that was, again, another miraculous, I was very humbled to be there with my father-in-law when he transitioned. And then after that, Sheila, that's, I think, about the time we connected with IET. And I went through all the trainings with IET, and we did a lot of work, with some sessions, with some past life stuff, that I had going on. And I think really I've been on this mission to find myself, what is my soul's purpose, what is my truth, and really tapping into who I am authentically.
Exactly.
And that's where this whole journey is going to. And all of these tools between the Reiki, the IET, the Unity Field Healing, because I did that training as well. These are all tools and modalities that have helped me grow spiritually, and really the tools to tap into figuring out who I am and how to walk my truth and be who I really am. And it's been a very, very amazing journey, and then about a year and a half ago, I received a diagnosis. I went for a mammogram and I get the phone call. Oh, come on in for an ultrasound. So I go in for an ultrasound. I'm like, okay. And then it was like, oh, we found something. You need a biopsy. And I'm like, okay. Well, the biopsy was scheduled for 11/11 at 11 o'clock.
Wow.
So talk about,
the universe again, numbers. Yeah. The reasons why.
And then I go in for the biopsy at 11/11 at 11 o'clock. And the doctor that did the biopsy had the same name as my mom and also the same birth date, January 3rd, as me.
I just laugh because it's like, it sounds like my story and kind of part of my own awakening. It's like, why do I know these numbers? Why are they special numbers? Why is this happening? So I love the awakening part, and I experienced the same thing. So go ahead. So
yeah, and I did some. It was interesting because I had a tarot reading done, and I did a numeral, and then I started. Somebody said, "Oh, Denise, you should look into numerology." So it's almost like these things have been appearing in my path, and I delve into it, and I was like, okay. And numerology, it was really, where I learned, okay, you know what? I chose my parents. I chose my brother. I chose my sister. And then I really started understanding, what has been happening in my life experience. And then with this diagnosis, after the biopsy, and then I went to, on December 5th, I went to see a breast doctor, because everything was like quick, once the biopsy. And, I elected to do a lumpectomy. And that was around the time COVID was happening. And I remember leaving the office and I said to myself, okay, Denise, how can you come from gratitude in this situation? Because I knew I couldn't go down that victim rabbit hole.
Exactly.
Because if I went down that
your attitude, your positive attitude. Yeah.
Yeah. And the fear, right? Because then you get thrown into fear. So I remember going home and taking my punching bag, my kickboxing punching bag, And I just let out these roars and, I just like attack that thing like I would attack nothing else.
I can just imagine you doing that, but it's like, oh my God, I totally relate to it.
Right? And then it was like, and then, like I understood the diagnosis, the doctor explained that really well. I had surgery scheduled within 2 weeks. During that 2-week period, I went through a lot of emotional, stuff. It's like, is this my time to transition?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. How do I know? Because you don't know what the future is. And, it's like, do I want these, because then it was the surgery and then they talked about a treatment plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, do I want chemicals in my body?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want radiation in my body? Understanding, what the effects are. And that took a lot of processing,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had the surgery. And then I said, okay, I knew I had to have the surgery because I knew there was this darkness in my body that just needed to come out. And I really tapped into that. And then I also said, when I went into the surgery, I was very at peace with it. And I said, okay, if I wake up from the surgery, I guess my work in this lifetime in this physical body is not done.
I guess I have to just pick myself up and keep going then. It's like, okay, it wasn't your transitional point at all.
Right? Or if I don't wake up, then I'll be doing some work in another physical body.
Exactly.
So anyway, needless to say, I did wake up because here I am.
Thank goodness. I still have my soul sister with me. We can still do some little tramping around and having a good time in this energy field. So yes, you did wake up. Thank goodness.
I remember opening my eyes and I'm like, oh, I'm back here. I guess my work's not done.
I know.
So then after the surgery, I met with my oncologist and I met with a radiation doctor that was on my team. And there was just some red flags that were there. I just saw these red stop signs. And I said, okay, Denise, just take a few moments to breathe, because this was a lot of stuff that was going on. Yeah. And then it was like, I didn't go down that hole of why did this happen to me? But then I started thinking about, from a spiritual aspect of it, it's like, okay, what the energy shifting, this is really a cleanse of my physical body to get the darkness out, get the shadows out, and really infiltrate it with light and love.
Exactly.
So that I can really walk my true path in my authentic self. And once I put that in my mind, then I went to my primary doctor and I said to her, I need a second opinion. So she sent me for a second opinion to upstate in Syracuse. And I went in there, I had my book, I did all my research, I had all the details of the journey that I was on. I had the biopsy, I had what the oncologist, was recommending. I had what the radiation doctor was recommending. I had everything, all the notes in this black book. It was a black book, right? And I remember walking in there and I brought my husband with me. And, I met the first doctor I met was the integrative doctor, Daddy K.
Nice.
And I'll never forget, we had such an amazing conversation. And he was Reiki too. He did, Tai Chi, he did Qigong. And those are all practices that are very empowering for healing.
Exactly.
And he said, yeah. And I'll never forget this. He said, Denise, he said, you can choose to live in peace or you can choose the other.
Oh, beautiful.
And
I love that.
I knew I was home and I knew I was in the right place.
Exactly. As a practitioner and also being in healthcare myself for many years, it is about the authentic self coming through as a caregiver and how they relate to you and how as a patient, I've been on both sides, you're in the right place at the right time and that you're going to be okay. And,
yes.
and I loved that type of holistic approach, the integrative approach. And you can always tell that the right person is there for you. And it just gives you confidence and trust and peace total peace. That
Yeah.
you're on the right path. So
Yeah.
good.
Here's your sign to register and save your seat for the next Lightworkers Connection Circle. The Lightworkers Connection Circle is about living your soul's purpose as a lightworker and connecting with others who are on the same spiritual path. It is a sacred and safe harbor group of lightworkers who are connecting, encouraging, empowering, and supporting human kindness together. The Lightworkers Connection Circle is led by Universal Master Healer Sheila Tillich and takes place on the first and third Tuesdays of every month. To save your seat, head on over to sheilatillich.com/lightworkers-connection-circle. You can also find the link to register in the show notes of this episode. Now back to you, Sheila.
So that was an amazing conversation. And then, he said to me regarding the chemo, he said, look at it as, thank it. And look at it as, it's going into your system, it's going into your body, it's doing what it needs to do, and then it's getting out. And I said, okay, and I'm just like, how can I experience more joy, from this diagnosis? Because basically I felt I was slapped upside the head. I had no idea it was coming. It was
I would think so.
And it was like, pay attention. And then I hooked up with a naturopath doctor. I had some testing done just so I can understand what my internal environment was.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of research, changing some nutrition. And when I met the oncologist there, this voice said to me, Denise, just listen. Okay. So I did. I just sat there and I listened. I listened to what she said. And then I said to her, I understand what you said. And I knew when she was talking about the treatment program, that was the right treatment program for me. So I opened my book up and I said, Doc, explain to me the difference between what you presented and what this other doctor presented. And she did.
Wonderful.
I said, okay, I'm ready. I said, let's get started, because I knew at that moment in time that I was ready. And I knew I had to do something because of the aggressiveness of the diagnosis. And I knew that, it's like the mass was removed. I knew there was nothing in my body because I felt there was nothing in my body, but I just knew that I had to do this preventative treatment. And I knew that I had to do the complete chemo and radiation because that's what I was being guided to. And that was the message that I was getting. It's like, you have to do this. You have to follow through with this. And I understand that now. So I went home and I was like, I was so at peace with everything. And then what I knew I had to do was, okay, if I'm going to have these chemicals coming into my body, and I'm going to integrate the Western medicine, I need to also approach this holistically.
Yes.
So then what I did was I was reading the cards that they gave me from the hospital with all the doctors. And on the back, there was spiritual development, Reiki master. Made a phone call.
Nice.
And he called me right back. So every treatment I had, he was there doing Reiki. And I also knew that from the IET stuff, was pulling the issues out of your tissues. I also knew that I needed to also tap into that energy as well, and some of the unity field healing energy. And that is why I asked my sister to actually gift me healing sessions from Sheila, so that every week I would have, when I would have the treatment, then I would have this energy work done. And that would keep the energy flowing through my body so that it would, okay, the chemicals are coming in, like, let's get them in, let's get them flushed out, do what you need to do. And that was so profound in my healing. And every week I would go in and I would get these questions. Did you fall? Did you have bruises? Do you have, they would just, the nurse would rattle off this whole laundry list of symptoms. And I'm like, no. And every week my blood work was coming back like amazing. Sometimes my blood counts would go down and stuff. And there was some, fluctuations, but nothing that I had to have other infusions or nothing that stopped the infusion. And, they said to me, your blood work is amazing. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the combination of the nutrition. It was a combination of all the energy work, plus it was Western medicine, because for whatever reason, I needed to have that experience. I needed to go through that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It reminds me of when years ago when I was in nursing school in the 90s, and I had to stop in my third year because I ripped a hamstring out of my leg, and stress intensifies it. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and I also was introduced to hospice, and I started doing hospice work and connecting with spirit and stuff like that. But also it led me on a path of my own self-healing. And from 96 all the way up to 2014, when I had another trip to the rheumatologist, which I hadn't been for years because I was starting my own self-healing journey, healing myself. And when I went to the rheumatologist for something else, and she said that you don't have fibromyalgia, what are you doing? And I told her, I said, I'm a holistic practitioner, and I, believe in positivity and all the things that I was doing. And she said, good for you. She goes, it's working because you are a miracle. And she goes, and I wish everybody else would be like you too. So I know it's like, we are waking up to our ability to heal ourselves in a profound way, and also use Western medicine along to go with it too. So, so continue on your journey, my dear. It just was relating to a lot of that stuff about mainstream, seeing how effective holistic and integrative stuff is, and that it's starting to come into the system. It's starting to come that we're not so weird anymore, that it's like it's all working out. On our spiritual journey. So,
yeah, it's great because, there were so many learning experiences that I've had. And I remember my last chemo treatment, which was about a year ago today. And, when you're done with your chemo treatments, they have you ring this bell, and the nurse says, Denise, are you going to ring the bell? I said, absolutely not. And she couldn't understand that. And I said, why not? I said, why would I? Why would I ring this bell? She's like, well, because you finished your treatment. I said, so?
I've been there and seen reactions of my coworkers when I've said something to that effect, or a patient would. And, it's like they don't understand because they're not there, but that's why we're there in their lives, to show them.
Absolutely. Right? And then she's like, well, do you want your picture taken? I said, what for? What if I need my picture taken for? Right? Because I don't perceive myself as a survivor.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't perceive myself as I'm in remission, because I'm not. I had this mass surgically removed, so there's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
And that darkness, like infiltrating light and love. And there's like, why? It was like, I just have to go through this because that's what I'm being told, and go through this process, because at the end of it, I'm going to be walking my true self.
Exactly.
In my authentic self. And then, and then people would say to me, then I did the radiation, and yeah, I was wiped out. There was a lot of things, I was totally wiped out, where it's like to put one foot in front of the other was an effort, but today I'm doing hot yoga. Today I'm running, today I'm, working on getting fitness, and I don't want to say getting my fitness back, because I don't compare what I'm doing, from a fitness perspective today as what I did in the past. In the past, I did CrossFit, I had a studio and I taught Zumba and all that other stuff, but today I'm a different person. So now I'm learning what this body really wants.
Exactly.
And really listening to my body and saying, you know what? Hot yoga. I love hot yoga because it's just toxifying and it's really connecting that whole mind body. And, I might go for a walk, but I don't have this regimented workout schedule right now. It's like, okay, what does my body need today? And what does my mind, need today? And that's where I'm at. And people say, well, how's your energy? And I'm like, my energy is amazing. right? Because I know, but I can't compare it to my energy from 2 years ago because I'm a different person. And that's where I feel I'm at, is that I'm a totally different person than I was before going through this treatments, because the chemo totally wipes out, a lot of, the cells, and now a lot of the healthy cells. So you're rebuilding and you're recalibrating everything. So I'm this whole different person, right?
You are.
I'm actually who I'm truly supposed to be, right?
Yeah. Your authentic self just shines brightly, and you also have a way of expressing your authentic self through your higher source and your ability with jewelry. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that too, of how, the expression of your jewelry is so profound. And it's part of, I know, where have you been in the past, but also as you are expanding on your journey now, you are just opening up in such a profound way. And I love your jewelry. How does your jewelry help heal you? How do you incorporate your authenticity with that?
Well, the jewelry, interesting part about the jewelry is, I've always been a very creative person.
Yes.
Graphic designer. When I was a kid, I did a lot of drawing. I went to school, and I just love the creativity. And the jewelry came about when I was doing essential oils, and I was like, oh, I can make that bracelet. And then I started investigating, and then using the gemstones. The gemstones have a lot of healing properties.
Exactly.
So that's really, and then the creativity. So it was kind of like, just another step on my journey, that it was like, oh, here come the gemstones now. Right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
here's another healing modality. And so it was tapping into that. And then the jewelry line went from diffuser jewelry. And then when we were in one of the IET classes, it was just being channeled that the jewelry was going to be changing for me. Yeah. And I didn't know how. And that is where Ascension Jewelry came out. And that's what it's going to stay, because that's what I'm really resonating with. And with the Ascension Jewelry, it's not for me to mass produce jewelry. It's more, there's so much healing infused with each piece of the Ascension Jewelry that sometimes a piece may be gifted. I might create something that's channeled through me, and I create this piece, and then it goes and it sits on an inventory, on one of my jewelry displays at my house. And then if I'm coming to an event, it'll be like, oh, put that piece on. So I'll go put that piece on and I'll wear it. And then I meet somebody, and then they tell me, you know what, give that person that piece of jewelry.
Exactly.
And that's what happens with it. And, so it's not really about, mass producing, but it's more about infusing the energy and healing into the jewelry. And then that jewelry is going to go where it needs to go.
Exactly.
And that's my whole passion for that, is to help other people heal, or gift them, or not gift them. They could purchase whatever, a piece, that jewelry for whatever healing that they need at that moment in that time.
Exactly. And I am really excited for your future in the jewelry. I know you are actually helping me, and we've designed my own jewelry line, and it's all through serendipity, as far as the energy that's in the stones, how it relates to us as healers, and also our authentic self. So each piece is divinely picked to help us on this journey. And your pieces are amazing, and I am just so thankful and grateful that we have started to work together on a different line, my own line of jewelry. So, Denise, your story and your purpose is amazing. And I wanted to have you on this podcast specifically to help humanity see that we are all one, and that we are all going through this. And a lot of times we think that we are the victim, and we think that we are the survivor, and it's really it's part of our path of our awakening. And as we walk this path of our awakening, we find our authentic higher self, our authenticity. What are we here to do? And you are just an amazing woman. And I am just so grateful and thankful that higher source, God, my beautiful angels have put you in my life to help me walk this journey. I want to thank you for being with me today and sharing your amazing, amazing journey of wholeness, trust, and being authentic. Thank you, dear sister, for being here today. Now, is there, would you like to share with my listeners where they can get a hold of you if they would like to get a hold of you? Do you have any place online or a website or something that they can connect with you if they choose?
Yeah, so they can connect with me on Facebook, Denise Lennox, and you can friend me. The other places, I also have a business page for the Ascension Jewelry. So you can go to Ascension Jewelry. You can like the page. I can tell you this, that there aren't any pieces of jewelry available on Ascension Jewelry at Facebook, only because I have, during this whole journey of the past year and a half, I have really stepped back and really focused on my own healing.
Exactly.
And I do have ascensionjewelry.com domain. However, I do not have a website yet.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's a website coming. However, I do know that I do have some stuff in a local shop. You can reach out to me if you're interested in any jewelry. Sheila's going to be having some jewelry on her site. I'm happy to, I do a lot of custom designs. I do not know what the future is going forward with the jewelry. I do know that I will continue to make it. And I will be guided on where that jewelry is going to, how that's just going to manifest over time. And that's pretty much where it is. And I also do want to say this too, is, the other day I was just sitting back reflecting on my journey diagnosis. And I just sat down and I journaled everything I was thankful about for that diagnosis, because it really brought me to where I am today. And that is really, really being more my true authentic self and walking my purpose and my path. Yes.
Exactly. I totally relate to all that. The journey that we're on, the gratitude for being allowed to be on that journey, and to be able to walk through it with grace and dignity, and also with passion, and also leading the role of helping others go through the same thing, and it's a change of belief, and it's change of how you look at yourself, and you're limiting yourself when you don't grow. And by you sharing and the gratitude with it, shows to the world, that you are a total thriver in living in your truthfulness of who you really are, your authentic self. So I am just so grateful and so thankful, dear sister, that you are part of my life. And I want to thank you for being here today. And I know my listeners will be uplifted by your story, just as I am every single time that I hear it, but also when I'm in your presence. So thank you so much for being here today.
Yes. And thank you. And thank you all. And have a very blessed day.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise.